Have you ever felt that there's something deeper to life, a search for meaning that goes beyond the routines of everyday life? For many, this search becomes a spiritual calling, a transformative journey that not only lights the way, but also requires the courage to let go of everything that no longer resonates with your true self. In this video, we'll dive into the 6 things that highly spiritual people slowly let go of, revealing how these relinquishes are not just losses, but actually liberations that make room for a more authentic and meaningful life. Imagine letting go of the chains of toxic relationships that drain your energy, or the external expectations that dictate how you should live. Imagine what it would be like to live without the burden of the fear of death, embracing life in its entirety. Spiritual awakening is a journey filled with challenges, but also profound rewards. As you follow it, you will discover that each choice to let go of what no longer serves you is actually a step toward your true essence. Get ready to connect with your most authentic self and discover the beauty that reveals itself when you let go of what doesn't belong to you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to embark on this journey of transformation and self-discovery with us. Spiritual awakening is a process that begins almost imperceptibly, like a feeling that something in the air has changed. The person begins to feel a break, a natural separation from what has always been familiar. The small things of everyday life, which were once a source of security and comfort, now seem insufficient. This awakening works as a silent call to see beyond the surface, so that what was previously seen as normal begins to lose its shine. There is a deconstruction of what seemed fixed, and the vision of the world transforms into something that requires a deeper understanding. This change awakens a need to understand and connect with what truly resonates within oneself. Social structures and the opinions of others, which have always had so much weight, now lose their strength in the face of a new search, a search for internal validation. The person feels that they no longer care so much about what others think, but rather about what they truly feel and want. This movement, although it may seem solitary, represents a reconnection with one's own essence, and it is in this movement that an internal strength capable of overcoming any external approval emerges. As we go through this process, we also experience a change in values, a shift away from attachment to material things. Spiritual awakening brings an understanding that true wealth is not found in possessions or status, but in a state of inner peace that transcends what is tangible. Material possessions then begin to lose their appeal, and life becomes more focused on what truly adds meaning. Adopting a simpler, more meaningful life becomes a natural goal, as the desire for abundance transforms into something much greater and deeper, something that comes from within and does not depend on the outside. This process also teaches the person to accept the flow of life, to trust that everything is happening as it should. Instead of fighting the tides, a willingness to surrender to the natural rhythm of things emerges, allowing rigid control to give way to trust. At this point, peace comes from surrender, from the understanding that everything has a time, and that often, the best moments come when least expected. With this, a deep tranquility is born that dissolves the need to control every detail. Thus, spiritual awakening unfolds in several layers, and the further a person advances, the more they realize that this journey is endless. Each new step reveals another face, another layer of understanding that, in turn, leads to new insights and transformations. And as the journey continues, this internal movement paves the way for a life of self-knowledge and growth, which will inevitably bring changes in their relationships and the way they see themselves. For those on a path of spiritual awakening, the search for external approval becomes a burden that begins to fall away. The desire to live up to the expectations of others, to follow imposed standards, gives way to a new priority: internal validation. It is as if, suddenly, the person looks in the mirror and recognizes that the value they have always sought outside is in fact within themselves. And at that moment, they realize that pleasing everyone is an illusion that consumes energy, diverting them from their own essence. When this liberation begins, an understanding emerges that genuine happiness is not a reflection of external recognition, but of the peace that comes from accepting who one is. For many people, this means saying no more often, choosing their own paths, even if they seem lonely or are not understood by others. Making decisions based on one's own discernment, without the influence of other people's expectations, becomes a fundamental step in the spiritual journey. This process of detachment is profound and impacts all aspects of life. It is as if the veil of appearances falls, and the person finally sees how much they cared about other people's opinions and social acceptance. They discover that true value lies in being true to themselves, in embracing their authenticity and values without being tied to molds that no longer serve them. It is a liberating movement that opens space for a journey that values their own truth above any judgment. To put this into practice, a good way is to dedicate time to what truly resonates with your soul, whether through hobbies, studies, or even exploring new passions. Little by little, these small actions strengthen your self-confidence, and the value that was previously given to the opinions of others turns into solid confidence. Emotional independence emerges, and the individual begins to nurture themselves, filling the void that they previously sought to fill with external validation. From this point on, freedom becomes a constant. Each decision made from one's own truth reinforces the connection with one's essence, and without external distractions, one begins to see the world with new eyes. This is a process that continues to reveal layers. In each discovery, each step towards one's own validation paves the way for even deeper changes that will guide spiritual awakening. In the process of spiritual awakening, a profound transformation in the relationship with the material world takes place. The view of possessions, status, and success, which once seemed so important, begins to change. What was once sought as a source of happiness, a new object, a purchase, or an external achievement, begins to lose its appeal. This material detachment is not a rejection of the physical world, but rather an alignment with what truly brings meaning. Simplicity emerges as a natural path, revealing the truth about where true abundance lies. When a person understands that inner peace is not found in possessions, their life takes on a new direction. They begin to value what is essential and lasting, instead of accumulating things that only weigh them down. It is common at this stage to do a cleanse, both physically and emotionally. Donate objects, reorganize life in order to reflect a lighter lifestyle. This is a powerful step, as it reveals that things in themselves no longer have the importance they once did, and what remains is a feeling of completeness, independent of external factors. This change in perspective also affects the way one sees one's own existence. The person begins to feel that their value is not tied to what they have, but rather to who they are. This vision transforms the way they relate to themselves and others, as the search for material goods gives way to the search for personal and spiritual growth. There is peace in knowing that happiness does not depend on what one has, but on the ability to live in harmony with oneself, practicing acceptance of the flow and seeing beyond appearances. To put detachment into practice, a person can start by questioning the purpose of each material object or desire that arises. Asking yourself, do I really need this? Or does this bring me peace and fulfillment? Or ways to cultivate a life that truly reflects what you truly value? This exercise of reflection and awareness allows you to gradually let go, replacing accumulation with lightness and excess with clarity. This transformation creates an inner space where the material becomes a reflection of the essential. Over time, the person discovers that the peace and happiness they have been seeking lies beyond the physical, and each detachment deepens the journey toward a fuller, truer existence. And as this process progresses, it naturally guides them to the next step on the path of awakening. Trusting the flow of life is one of the most profound challenges of spiritual awakening. Along this journey, a person begins to understand that not everything is under their control, and that trying to control every detail only creates tension and frustration. Accepting the flow means opening up to the idea that there is a natural rhythm, a divine timing that guides events, and that trying to force something before the right moment can hinder more than help. This surrender brings a subtle peace, as if each step were guided by a greater force. As control diminishes, an inner confidence emerges that grows stronger with each passing day. The person learns to look at uncertainties calmly, knowing that even difficult moments are part of a larger process of growth. This change in perspective allows the person to react more calmly to challenges, transforming problems into learning opportunities. Practicing this acceptance can involve small daily exercises, such as taking a deep breath when something goes wrong, or observing what happens when the person decides to simply follow the natural course. This surrender to the flow also helps reduce anxiety, because instead of fearing the unknown, the person begins to embrace it as part of their path. They understand that even without knowing what the future holds, there is a greater wisdom at work, guiding each step. This does not mean that they become passive, but rather that they act without the weight of fear, knowing that effort, without attachment to the outcome, is what truly liberates them. Little by little, they learn that true control comes from their own ability to deal with the unexpected and to trust in their path. To apply this wisdom to your daily life, you can reflect on the times you tried to control yourself and how much that brought you peace or anguish. This exercise in self-knowledge shows that the more you let go, the freer you feel. Meditating, or even practicing breathing exercises, can be a way to remind yourself that the flow is your ally, not something to be tamed. The simple act of letting go, of trusting that the universe is on your side, makes life easier and less demanding. By opening oneself to the flow of life, one creates space for the new, allowing each experience to unfold at exactly the right time. This state of trust strengthens one's connection to one's essence, giving one a broader and deeper view of the world and one's role in it. Life becomes less about the results and more about the journey. And by moving forward with ease, one discovers a freedom that previously seemed unattainable. Thus, trusting the flow not only transforms the way one sees the world, but also renews one's relationships, attracting connections that resonate with one's authenticity and awaken one's true essence. On the path to spiritual awakening, relationships begin to be viewed with a more attentive and conscious eye. The person begins to perceive the impact that certain bonds have on their life, especially those that drain their energy, limit their growth, or block their well-being. These toxic relationships become clear as spiritual sensitivity increases, revealing themselves as obstacles to personal advancement. It is as if, by raising their own frequency, they begin to see more clearly the bonds that previously disguised themselves as affection, but carried a burden of manipulation and emotional dependence. When you become aware of the weight of these relationships, you face the challenge of letting go and creating boundaries that preserve your peace. This process is not easy and often involves an internal confrontation between the desire to maintain these connections and the need to protect your emotional space. Learning to say no is a liberating act, a necessary step to make room for people who truly elevate your journey. Little by little, you understand that you don't need to sacrifice or mold yourself to please others, and that it is possible to build a life in harmony with your purpose, surrounded by genuine and enriching relationships. Letting go of a toxic relationship is an act of self-love. The person begins to prioritize themselves, to put their own peace above any bond that destabilizes them. This detachment may be accompanied by a feeling of loss, but it is soon replaced by relief and a new lightness. The person realizes that moving away from relationships that no longer vibrate on the same frequency allows their energy to be channeled towards growth and self-knowledge. At this stage, it is common for new relationships to emerge naturally, bringing with them the harmony they were so searching for. To put this decision into practice, the person can begin to reflect on each of their relationships, asking themselves, does this relationship help me to be who I really am? This exercise allows them to identify those that have a negative impact, and from there, set clear boundaries. Honest conversations, gradual distancing, and self-care practices are ways to preserve their own energy while this process of detachment takes place. Over time, this attitude strengthens their ability to choose relationships consciously, aligned with their awakening. By letting go of these bonds that no longer make sense, the person opens up to authentic and positive relationships, nourished by exchange and mutual respect. This transformation, in addition to bringing more peace, increases resonance with people who share similar values and paths. And with this new perception of what really matters, the person begins to explore other facets of their authenticity, allowing themselves to go beyond what they previously knew. Spiritual awakening reveals to a person that true peace comes from aligning with their authentic self, without the need to hide behind social masks. Embracing authenticity means freeing oneself from external expectations and connecting with who one truly is at their core. Little by little, one realizes that living according to what others expect is like wearing clothes that no longer fit, tight, uncomfortable, limiting. Being authentic, then, becomes an undeniable calling, a necessity to honor oneself and one's truths. This process of authenticity involves shedding the layers of external approval and validation that once seemed so important. It leads her on a path of discovery where every action, every choice, reflects what she truly believes and values. There is no longer room for pleasing everyone. Instead, she seeks to respect her own limits and needs. This shift in attitude instills a kind of confidence that does not depend on external approval, but on a strong internal validation that supports every step she takes, even when it is challenging. However, embracing authenticity also means accepting one's own flaws and limitations. It's a deep dive where she learns to embrace all parts of herself without judgment. Instead of hiding or trying to fix what she considers imperfect, she finds strength in being who she is, with her strengths and flaws. This is a powerful step, because the more honest and transparent she becomes with herself, the easier it is to attract sincere relationships, based on mutual acceptance and freedom to be. In everyday life, this authenticity can be cultivated through small acts. Choosing to say no when something doesn't resonate with your truth, or even expressing your feelings in a genuine way, are ways to honor who you really are. Avoiding the fear of judgment from others and making decisions aligned with your beliefs become practices that strengthen this experience. These small gestures of personal integrity pave the way for a lighter life, where each choice reflects your true self. Over time, living authentically brings a profound sense of freedom, as there is no longer a need to conform to patterns that do not make sense. One realizes that by being true to oneself, one finds lasting peace, a state of serenity where there is no inner conflict. And with this growing confidence, one begins to look at life from a new perspective, questioning what one once feared, including one of humanity's greatest fears. Overcoming the fear of death is a fundamental step in spiritual awakening, as it involves understanding the finitude of the body without losing the connection with the eternity of the soul. As a person delves deeper into their spiritual journey, they begin to perceive death as a natural cycle, part of a larger process that gives meaning to life. This understanding brings inner calm and serene acceptance. Fear ceases to be a constant, as they understand that their spirit is greater than any physical limitation, and that death is merely a transition. As this understanding deepens, the person begins to live more fully and consciously, valuing each moment. There is no longer room to waste time on trivialities, as each moment is an opportunity to connect with one's true essence. This understanding brings a change in priorities. The focus becomes spiritual growth, the quality of relationships, and the cultivation of inner peace. Death ceases to be a threat and becomes a reminder to live authentically and meaningfully. This transformation also frees her from the fears that once paralyzed her. She realizes that by accepting death, she also learns to accept the uncertainties of life. She no longer has the desire to control every situation, because the fear of the end no longer restricts her. She feels safe living in the present, enjoying each experience without anxiety about the future. To cultivate this mindset, meditation practices and deep reflection on impermanence can help to incorporate the tranquility needed to accept what cannot be changed. On the other hand, by transcending the fear of death, a person becomes more open to understanding the purpose of life and their choices. They realize that each stage lived, each cycle completed, contributes to constant growth, and that, in a way, death is just a transformation, an opportunity to start over in a new way. This view of life and death allows a person to feel at peace with their path, without regrets or the feeling that something was left unfinished. Thus, by facing death as part of the process of evolution, a person feels free to expand their knowledge, their consciousness, and their connection with the universe. This understanding broadens their perspective on what it means to exist and love deeply without the constraints of fear. And with an open mind, they continue their journey, ready to explore the mysteries of the world and the meaning of all that is eternal. As we wrap up our journey through the 6 things highly spiritual people slowly let go of, it's time to reflect. Are you ready to let go of the shackles that bind you to a life of superficiality? Spiritual awakening takes courage, but every small step you take toward letting go can transform your reality. Ask yourself, what in your life no longer serves you? What are the relationships, fears, and beliefs that need to be let go of? It is essential to remember that every choice you make is a reflection of your commitment to your true self. What do you want to cultivate in your life from now on? By applying these principles, you will not only free yourself from unnecessary burdens, but you will also pave the way for new experiences and authentic connections. This is the time to commit to your evolution, embracing authenticity and inner peace. If you are ready for this transformation, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue receiving content that nourishes your spiritual growth. The life you want is within your reach, and the journey begins now.